Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Horror Debate. I'm Michael Mandy, he's Rowdy Jeff.
And this week we're going to be reviewing Saw 2 from 2005, kind of picking up where the first movie left off, directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. And in this movie, basically, Jigsaw's locking a few people in a booby-trapped shelter, and they're trying to find a way out, and they've all got something in common, and we got to figure out what that is, right, Mike?
Yeah, we do, and that is the largest house in the history of the universe.
Was that cool?
It was a huge, dirty old house.
Yeah, man. I was liking the set. I was liking the set for this movie. Absolutely. Tobin Bell again. I mean, off the hook, man. Love this guy in this movie.
He's got a much bigger part in this film than the last one.
And that's a good thing, because we get that Elwes out of there, right?
Get rid of Cary Elwes.
We fire him. We send him to the unemployment line. We bring Tobin Bell in, and we make him the center of attention along with, no, I'm not lying, Donnie Wahlberg!
Yeah, new kid on the block. He's no longer a new kid on the block. Now he's a balding kid on the block.
Well, and there was no new kids in the soundtrack either, which I was hoping for something, you know.
I'm glad there wasn't.
Just to round it out, but no.
New Kids on the Block was such a mistake.
The Amanda character returns. If you remember, she's the lady in the reverse bear trap mouth thingamajigger. And
she wakes up in the room with everybody else.
Yep, and this is a motley crew of characters, isn't it, man? I mean,
Nikki Sixx was nowhere in this film.
What's that?
Nikki Sixx was nowhere in this film.
Nikki Sixx would have been smart enough to get the hell out of there, man. This place was a booby trap joint if I ever saw one, man.
If you ever find yourself waking up in a strange room and you see the sign that says exit here, right after someone says there's a poison gas creeping in, just don't follow the sign.
You know, okay, I want to say this right off the bat now that you mentioned the gas already, because it just bothered me, okay, when I watched this movie. This movie has more coughing than an elderly scene in a tuberculosis ward. Okay, and if you're listening to it in 6.1, which they did master it in 6.1, you're getting coughs from the left, the right, the center. I'm like, what are they trying to do to me here?
It was kind of like the movie Thank You for Smoking.
Whoa! What are they trying to do to me? I mean, I understand it was necessary. The nerve gas was going through the facility or the house or whatever it was, and and these people were slowly getting infected by it, and it was slowly breaking down their bodies. But oh, come on, give me a break on the coughs, brother. Okay, I mean, I got the point. I got the point.
And to keep up with the rules of the sequel, you've got to up the body count, you've got to up the gore factor, you got to up everything.
Well, they upped it to and it was cool how they did it, because again, they kind of amazed me with the breadth of the traps and what goes through the sick minds of these guys. They're creating this thing with the contraptions and everything, like the hypodermic needle pit. I mean, you gotta love it, man.
Yep,
you gotta love it.
That was the other thing. A lot of these, going back to the first film, everyone was expecting it to be a total gore fest, which it really wasn't. This film, everyone expected it to be an even bigger gore fest, but you know what? How much blood and gore was there in this film? Next to nothing. It was mostly psychological.
Yeah, and they didn't need to do that. And once again, this is a continuation of what we call the thinking man's horror film. They really did a good job, again, continuing that. And I was surprised, and I'll tell you the honest truth, I was shocked at how effective Donnie Wahlberg really was. He did an excellent job in this film.
Much better than Cary Elwes?
You know what? Don't even mention that name to me anymore, dude. You will catch a left hook. Okay? Now, Donnie is a reputable actor. I think both him and his brother really do a good job.
Mark.
They always step. He'll kill you for that, dude.
Yes, he will.
He will kill you for that. He's going to spear you next time you see him. He's going to be in that Philadelphia Eagles outfit from Invincible and run you right over, dude.
That was a cool film.
That was a cool film, but that's not horror. So anyway, Donnie and Mark Wahlberg, both of them, good chops in acting, and who would have thunk it? Considering that one still has good vibrations, and the other one is used to be with Jordan and the rest of the clan and the New Kids on the Block, and I can't believe I even know that much, but it's all because my wife was a fan.
Oh God,
way back when.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, but they are effective, and I got to give Donnie props for stepping up in a film that he had never done this type of film before, and he really stepped up and knocked it out of the park. So kudos to that. Also, Dina Meyer returns again as his sort of his partner in the precinct, once again, man, she's a hottie. She's a hottie, man. I loved her in Starship Troopers. I love her in the Saw series. She's got that spunk, man, that a lot of female actors just don't have anymore. And that's what turns me on about the whole thing. To be honest with you, she's awesome.
Yeah. Well, actually, I kind of like this film. Like we said, it was more psychological horror. The bad things that happened to these people were on the creative side, but not crazy. They were believable.
Right.
You know, the gun on the door. You know,
that was brilliant.
Yeah,
I thought it was great.
That was actually taken from a Dario Argento film.
Well, everything in the Saw movies is something that really could kind of go down.
Opera. Good film.
It really could kind of go down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know?
the needle pit. I mean, you know,
it's stuff that's not so far fetched that you would think that, you know, this would never freaking happen. I mean, some people may be thinking that, but you know, if somebody was demented enough, this stuff really could be built. This stuff really could be something that would be used, you know, and it's not that far out of the realm of possibility. So,
and the neat thing also about this film was each person, shades of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Each person had a little bit of information that they needed to work together to get out. And because of the nature of the people, they all had a lot of them had bad attitudes, and they weren't willing to work together, and that was their downfall.
Right. And yet they all had that thing in common, which if we say what it is, it kind of ruins the movie, so we're not gonna. But all the characters kind of had this thing in common, at least the people that were locked inside the facility or the house or whatever. And, you know, it was up to them to kind of figure that out. And Donnie was involved in that, in his character. And I think once you figure it out, you know, you're like, wow, you know, that's kind of cool. You know, how they wrap that all in there. And actually, you know, Tobin Bell is such a wonderful actor and wonderful in this movie that you almost kind of feel sorry for the dude. He's demented, he's brutal, but he's dying of cancer, you know. And this cop, who's not exactly always down the straight and narrow, is kind of roughing the guy up, and you're like, hey man, don't hurt Jigsaw. Don't hurt you. We got at least a couple more movies out of this dude yet, man. Don't knock this guy out. You know, I don't know. I started to feel for the guy.
Oh no, I felt good when Donnie started slugging him.
Well, the guy deserved it, yeah,
Yes.
but you know, I don't know.
It was a pretty good release.
Yeah, okay.
But anyways, yeah, this film, I another expecting total torture and crying and pain, and it really wasn't. It actually had a really good plot, and it was different than the first one. It wasn't just two people in one room yelling at each other back and forth. This actually took you places. The camera went, and obviously a bigger set, more money, and it was the same but a little bit different. And that was, I think,
It was a lot different, really.
I think it was a very good sequel.
It was really a lot different in the way, like you said, they made the characters kind of work together. It almost became a team-based kind of thing.
And some of them didn't want to be a team.
No, some of them didn't want to be a team,
And
but that's the whole point. is that
Exactly.
You're doing things to push these people, you
Exactly.
know? You know, as elaborate as these movies are, I thought this film really brought it together. I do want to mention that if you've got a surround sound system, okay, this movie is mastered in 6.1. It has some of the absolute best, and I know I've said this before, but I really mean it, some of the best surround sound effects. The camera, it's not one of those movies that like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre where you're jerking around a lot, you know, or like Feast, you know, but it does have its camera sways from side to side. Like, say for instance, I remember one scene in particular. There's the room they're in is fairly large, and the camera is focused like on the right side of the room with the characters on the right side, and it pans really quickly to the left side. As it pans to the left to show the other half of the room, you feel it around the back of your head. The sound moves with it, and I thought that was some of the coolest effect. It made the little hair stand up on the back of my head. I thought that was really cool. Somebody was doing some thinking. They weren't just playing with the knobs at the mixer board.
But sometimes, though, it did kind of get annoying sometimes when the camera would do the giant, quick, jerky close-ups and swirl around the room 5 or 6 times.
Well, some of it was effective and some of it wasn't. I didn't think that it was overly done. I didn't find it annoying to the point where I'm like, you know, like in Feast, I was like, okay, can you replay that whole thing? Because I don't know what the hell happened.
Yeah, we missed everything.
Okay, yeah, it was never like that. You always kind of knew where you were.
Yeah, I think it was just to show off. Look, we can make the camera fly around the room at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that done in a tasteful manner. And I didn't think they went over the line with it. You know?
No, but I think they walked up to that. They walked up to the line.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what, this movie, and even the first one, thing that was really cool was some of the edits. Changing from one scene to another. Okay, we're at the police precinct now, and now they're getting in the car and driving away. And as the camera drives away, you are now in the dirty, dingy basement.
These are
thing
transitions,
or whatever.
video transitions.
And it was a cool transition, and they didn't overuse it.
Absolutely.
It was only once or twice. Some people, I bet the first time you saw this, you didn't even know it happened.
Let me tell you what that reminded me of.
And those were actually very cool.
Let me tell you what that reminded me of, the Sin City vibe.
Yeah.
When it's kind of a comic thing when you're going from panel to panel, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of zooming you into that next scene. I dug that, man. I thought that was really cool. Good effect and well done.
And not overused.
And not overused.
That takes a lot of restraint.
Absolutely right. Saw 2 is a hit in my opinion. I don't think there's going to be, like I said in the first movie, these are some of the most intense horror movies that you can get. I think if you sit down in a completely dark room and watch these films, they're going to bother you. It's not necessarily going to scare you so much as it's just going to get under your skin.
Yeah, these are more psychological.
They're
horror.
hard to watch in a lot of scenes. Did you love the trap, the drug addict? Did you love her sticking her hands up in the in the deal?
And the funny thing is, watch the movie a second time, and you will see there's a stool behind her that what she should have done was grab the stool, stand on it, and go at it from the top. But
use her second hand once she was stuck to go up in that same hole and release her first arm. I mean, but
that's the thing. There are ways out of these things. It's not someone just torturing someone for the sheer pleasure of it.
But put yourself in that position, man, and you've got the nerve gas running through you. You're coughing up blood. You know you're going to die pretty much. I don't know what I would do in that situation. So I think that it was played beautifully, man. I can't say enough. I didn't think the acting was weak at all. I thought everybody was excellent.
Wouldn't it have been funny though if there was a tape recorder in that room, and I think there was, but that was supposed to be someone else's trap. So let's say she walked in. And, okay, Bill, this is it. Hey, Bill, this is your trap.
I thought about that too.
It's kind of.
See, that's why we have a director. Stuff like that's not going to happen.
See, it would have. See, if I would have been planning all these traps to torture all these people, that's what would have happened. They'd have been walking around going, "Dude, this is yours." Here, you're supposed to stick your hand in there.
Right. Better you than me, man.
That's wouldn't have worked. All right, how many stars, Jeff?
I'm giving this one a 4 as well. I thought it lived right up to the original, and this is one of the few sequels we can say that about and be honest. It did everything the first one did in a completely different way, kept you going. Donnie Wahlberg knocked it out of the park. I thought everything about this movie worked. Not quite a 5. There were a few little annoyances throughout the movie, but nothing to sneeze at. I mean, I think this, honestly, this is in my top 10 of I've
sequels?
seen. Top 10 sequels easily. Easily top 10 sequels. It fits the story. It even makes the first movie kind of better once you know more about the villain. It's fantastic.
Yeah, there were a lot of unexplained things in the first one. I think because first-time director and first-time writer and everything. But then they said, okay, now we've got the sequel. Let's go back and explain some of the plot holes that people have been pointing out.
Right. You know what, though? In all honesty, and I'm a stickler for this, and I'm a stickler for continuity in these type of movies, honestly, the plot holes didn't even bother me. Didn't even bother me in this one. This movie was so intense from beginning to end, and you were feeling so for the characters. To me, it just grabbed me, didn't let me go, man. I didn't care. Plot holes or not, they weren't gaping large enough to ruin this movie for me. So I don't think it's going too far, average viewer.
All right. Rowdy Jeff gives it 4. I'm giving it 4 also. Good film, good sequel. I'm Michael Mandy. He's Rowdy Jeff. We'll talk to you next week at the Horror Debate.